Welcome back, Grade 6, to Nelson Math, Chapter 5, Getting Started. Today we're going to look at a preview of our chapter, and then we're going to do a little bit of review. So for Chapter 5, Measuring Length, we're going to be able to choose, use, and rename metric length measurements, or linear measurements. In other words, a line. Anything we use to measure length must be a line. We're going to measure perimeters of polygons. Polygon is anything that has many sides. And lastly, solve problems using diagrams and graphs. Some review for today. Here are some review questions, but before we do that, I'd like to point out to you this chart that I've copied at the bottom here. These are some very common measurements that you're going to be making use of. Not necessarily these ones exactly, but certainly relating to all of these. This is not as difficult as it looks because you'll notice that all of the numbers are all factors of 10. So 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters. These are the same length. It's the same length. If you took a ruler and you measured 1 centimeter, it would be the same distance as 10 millimeters. The only difference is how we write it, but it means the exact same length. Let's move on to 1 meter. 1 meter is 100 centimeters. So if you took a meter stick, common in many classrooms, and you looked at from 0 to 1 meter, you would see it's exactly 100 centimeters. Because the number of millimeters is 10 times the number of centimeters, then the number of millimeters here must also be 10 times the number of centimeters. So 100 centimeters must be 10 times multiplied by 10, and that's how many millimeters you have. Let's move on to kilometers. 1 kilometer is 1,000 meter. The Greek for 1,000 is kilo. So there's a K there, and that means kilo. 1,000 meters, and let's go back to our meters here. We multiply by 100 to get the number of centimeters. So 1,000 meters is 100,000 centimeters. And because we multiply by 10 to get millimeters, it's 1 million millimeters. Let's look at some practical examples here. So 1a, 2 kilometers is how many meters? We could use this one right here, this third line. If 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters, then 2 kilometers is like 1 kilometer plus 1 kilometer. In other words, 1,000 meters plus 1,000 meters. So 2 kilometers would be 2,000 meters right there. Let's go to the next one. 1.4 meters is how many centimeters? So this one would help right here. 1.4. So we're dealing with a decimal here. So we know that the 1 meter of our 1.4 is 1 whole meter. The 0.4 tells us 4/10 of a meter. So it's more than 0 meters, but less than a whole meter. So if it's 1 meter is 100 centimeters, we know 2 meters is 200 centimeters. So it must be between there. So the only number that fits is 140 centimeters. We could have also done this with a calculator, multiplying 1.4 times 100. For letter C, 1.4 meters is how many millimeters? Luckily for us, we already did 1b. We know that 1.4 meters is 140 centimeters. So we could just multiply the 140 by 10, which gives us 1,400. We could have also done 1.4 times 1,000 directly, which would give us 1,400 millimeters. All of those different methods are valid. For part D, 15 centimeters. This one here tells us we have to multiply our digits by 10. So 15 times 10 is 150. So that's 150 millimeters. Let's look at number 2. Calculate the perimeter of each shape. The perimeter is the linear sum of all the sides of a shape. So perimeter, this shape has 4 sides and we're measuring the line or the length. A linear measurement means it is a line. So we have a few different ways of doing this. I've chosen just add up all four. So 2.5 plus 2.5 plus 2.5 plus 5 plus 5. If we add those all up, it gives us 15 meters. So the perimeter of this shape when adding up all four sides is 15 meters. For 2b, I'm going to be finding the perimeter of this one a little bit differently. It still gives the correct answer, and of course we could still say 2 plus 6 plus 2 plus 6. That for sure will still work. But I noticed something for a rectangle, that its opposite sides are the same length. And you've learned when you do repeated addition that you can do a multiplication here. So we have two sides that are 6 kilometers each. So right here I have 2 times 6 kilometers. And that gives me my sum of these two sides. And now I have 2 times 2 kilometers. And that gives me the sum of these two sides. So 2 times 6 is 12. The sum of this is 12. And 2 times 2 is 4. So 12 meters plus, or rather kilometers plus 4 kilometers is 16 kilometers. Number 3, sketch two different rectangles with a length of 6.7 and a perimeter close to but not exactly 18. I'm only going to show you one. You can make two, but this is how I chose to make mine. I made my rectangle and I made my length 6.7 centimeters. And you can see that. When I add them both together, if I add 6.7 plus 6.7, I get 13.4. So the other two sides, when I add the two sides together and add to 13.4, I know I have to get close to 18, but not exactly. So if I do 13.4 plus 4, I get 17.4. So this rectangle meets the criteria, but you can get closer. See what happens if you give the two shorter sides a decimal measurement. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.